Well, I'd like to thank Paul and Dick for their comments. And you I will talk to later.
Can we still ground him?
No, he's too old to ground. But thank you, David. Unfortunately, everything you said was true, which really makes it that much more difficult. Okay, you'll learn at CDM very early on when you're asked to give speeches that if you're the last person up, you need to kind of move as quickly as you can because you are the last thing between whoever is in the audience and the bar. So I'm going to try and move pretty quickly through some of this. 40 years ago, you already heard a little bit of this. I walked into CDM as a 25-year-old kid without a bachelor's degree. I was still going to school nights at Bentley. I was already married and had David, who was 2 years old at the time. The guy who interviewed me, Fred Tobin, I hit it off with because he had a 2-year-old son as well. And I'm quite sure that out of all the people that he interviewed for that assistant controller job, every single person was more qualified than I was. But he and I hit it off, and he hired me. And one of the things I didn't tell Joan is that he hired me. He had worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers, and one of the reasons that he left PwC, or at the time Coopers and Lybrand, was that his wife didn't like him traveling. So Lybrand came to CDM, and he said to me during the interview, if you come on board, it sounds like the company you worked for, United Electric Controls in Watertown, did some acquisitions, and you had done a little work on those. So if you come to work from us, hopefully you wouldn't mind traveling on some acquisitions. And at 25 years old, you'll do anything to try and get ahead and get some experience. So I said, you bet. I came on board. I want to talk just quickly about two firsts. My first day at CDM, I only remember part of, and there's a reason for that. Fred had hired me to start on a Monday, and the previous Friday, he had 4 wisdom teeth removed. And when I came in on Monday, he kind of came into the cubicle that I had at Center Plaza, and he was kind of mumbling, but what I heard him say was, I was in a lot of pain this weekend, and I didn't have much food. For lunch, I'm going to go over to the Sea and Surf and try and get some chowder, and maybe you could join me over there, but this morning you've got to kind of go on your own. So he gave me a bunch of stuff to read, and we went over to the Sea and Surf restaurant, which probably only Pat and a few others remember in downtown Boston. And he ordered some chowder, and then he ordered a Beefeater martini straight up with 2 olives. Now, I gotta be honest with you, at 25, I didn't know what Beefeater was, and I didn't know what straight up meant. And so he ordered one, he said, do you want to get the same? And I said, you bet. I mean, the boss first made is chowder and a martini. Who am I to say no? I didn't know what a martini was. So he had the chowder and the martini, and so did I, and he said, I'm starting to feel better. And I wanted to say, well, shit, I didn't have any teeth out, now I'm feeling better. So he ordered a second martini, and so did I, and we left there at about 2:15. And I remember going back to the office. I don't remember anything after. I do remember going home before going to Bentley that night for class, and Joan said to me, do you think you're going to like it at CDM? I said, like it? I could stay here 40 years. The first trip that I took with Joe Lawler, which was 3 weeks later, I got called into his office. And Joe said, we're going to go down to New York, and we're going to meet Morris Kligerman and his partners, who Morris owned Alexander Potter Associates. And this was in 1972. And by the way, Dick, that was the first acquisition. There were none done before that. So we went down there and we met with, flew down that morning, on a Tuesday morning, and I understood what my job was, and that was to go over the books, try and meet with the partners, talk about the different projects, and find out whether or not this was a company that could hook up with CDM. Morris Kligerman, I was 25. Morris Kligerman was old. 65. Doesn't sound so old anymore. But to me, it was like meeting with my grandfather. And again, I had been with CDM 3 weeks, so I didn't know a lot about the poop business then. But Morris was, Mr. Kligerman, as everyone called him, was terrific. He took me under his wing, introduced me around to people as if I was somebody, took me to dinner on Tuesday night and Wednesday night, talked about his firm and how it started. It was, to me, it was a learning experience of a lifetime that you could never get. Just the luck of the draw that after being with the company 3 weeks, I'm in New York on my own meeting with this guy. And by the way, I thought, as Dick, I think, alluded to, I thought Joe Lawler, our CEO, was going to stay with me, but he left on Tuesday. Not only did he leave, but my first business trip on Tuesday, I'm following Joe around. We get on the plane, we get off the plane, we get in a taxi. because he wasn't staying, he didn't have a suitcase. I had left my suitcase out at the airport because I was following him. So I had to go back out that Tuesday night to get the suitcase, paid the round trip cab fare myself. Anyway, Thursday night we go out to dinner, Mr. Clayman and I, 25 and 65. I'm sitting on across from him at the table at the Rainbow Room in the Rockefeller building. And he said, so Paul, what do you think? You've been looking at this the whole week. What do you think of my company? Give me some numbers. What do you think this is worth? And I'm thinking, I don't know if I should answer him or not. So I drew out some numbers and different numbers and stuff like that. He said, very interesting. And then we had dinner and that was the end of it. So Friday, my role was to go into the office in their New York headquarters and wrap up my papers, get out of there, fly back and meet with Joe Lawler. So Mr. Clayman came into the conference room and he said to me, I thought about that offer you made to me last night. And I heard the word offer. And I soiled my pants. Because I figured, you're done. You know, you've had a 3-week career, it was nice. They drink martinis, they seem like nice people, but you're not going to work there anymore. So I just kind of faked it and said to him, well, you know, we were talking about a lot of things and stuff like that. And he said, no, he said, I want you to go back and tell Joe that I think we got something here to work with. So I flew back on a plane, and it seemed like an eternity on that plane. Walked into Joe Lawler's office, and for those of you who knew Joe, Joe was kind of as big as John Wayne, and he was sitting behind his desk, and he said, how'd you do? And I said, well, here's what happened. And I said, he took that as an offer, and he said, well, what was the number? And I told him the number, and he kind of stared at me, and he said, well, that was about half of what I thought we were going to have to pay. And that's how we did our first deal. And so I was very fortunate to work with Joe Lawler, Joe Heaney, Bob Marini, and 2 of our previous CEOs that are here tonight, Tom Furman and Dick Fox, who made the comments earlier. And our new CEO, who's going to become chairman and take over for Dick in that role on April 9th. Steve, I won't have the pleasure of working for you, but I've worked with you for many, many years, and I know that you and Tim and your new team are going to do a great job in that role, and you've got some new people to work as counsel and advisors that I think are going to do very, very well, including Jerry DeMary, who's replacing me in my role.